Here we have an artery, then we have veins, then we have the venous valves, and then you have the endothelium on the inside of the lumen. Right. Move along to some arteries. You have, this is your aorta. Right here is the aortic arch at number 12. You have your descending aorta on the back here. And then above the diaphragm, where this aorta follows, that would be your thoracic aorta. Below the diaphragm where this aorta is, that will be your abdominal aorta. So here we have your brachiocephalic artery. This is your left common carotid artery. And if we look at this model over here, look at this side. This is your left common carotid artery, and then it branches off into an internal carotid artery and then a external carotid artery. Right, next you have your subclavian artery at 237, and then your axillary artery is actually part of your subclavian artery, but it is inside the shoulder. So right here, this right here will be your axillary artery. And then you have your brachial artery, which if you follow down this artery, as soon as it gets out of the armpit into your arm, this right here is your brachial artery. Next, you have your ulnar and radial arteries. Remember, radial is thumb side, so this right here on your thumb side would be your radial artery. And remember, ulnar is pinky side, so here on your pinky, right here, is your ulnar artery. And then you have your vertebral arteries and your intercostal arteries. Here are your intercostal arteries. You see that they follow the intercostals of the ribs. And then your vertebral arteries are best seen on this model, where if you follow the circle of Willis, this artery goes down into your vertebrae. See that red line in your vertebrae? Those are your vertebral arteries. The celiac trunk, see the three arteries branching off here. Number 291, that middle part of all of them, that is your celiac trunk. This one will be your common hepatic artery. This one is your left gastric artery. And this one, 293, will be your splenic artery. Next, you have your superior mesenteric artery. It's right here. And then you have your suprarenal arteries. They are 323. They go up to this yellow structure right here. Those are your suprarenal arteries. Next, you have your renal arteries. Those come out to the kidney. So that'll be 321 right here. This one will be your right renal artery. Then you have these gonadal arteries at 327 where they branch off right here. Those will be your gonadal arteries. And then you have your inferior mesenteric artery, which is 315 right here. And then next, you have lumbar arteries. Those are not very well drawn on these models, but they will branch out. There will be little arteries that branch out over here right before they split into your common iliac arteries. So these are these arteries right here. But your lumbar arteries will split a little bit off before that. And then from here, we have your common iliac artery, splits into an internal iliac artery, which splits into an external iliac artery. And then if you go down to the thigh, this is where you'll see your femoral artery, best seen on this leg model over here. If you flip it to the front, like right where it becomes the leg, that is your femoral artery. All right, the next artery is the popliteal artery. That is behind your kneecap. So right here behind your kneecap, that will be your popliteal artery. The next artery is the anterior tibial arteries. You just go to the front of the tibia. You will see those anterior tibial arteries. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the veins. So here we have your superior vena cava, and then you have your brachiocephalic at 248. You have this internal jugular right here. Also, you have one right here. And then you also have an external jugular, which you only see on this side. It's kind of this vein that's running down here. Next is your subclavian veins, which is 240 right here and 280 over here. You also have a cephalic vein, which is over here. Right here is your cephalic vein. It's this outer one right here. So next is your axillary vein, which is right here. Right before this connects, right here is the axillary vein. So next is your basilic vein, which is this long vein that runs all the way down here. It's your basilic vein. The next vein is your median cubital vein. That's this vein right here that kind of connects that basilic vein with this long cephalic vein up here. So it's kind of this vein right here. All right, flipping the page, you have your brachial vein, just cut off here, but it will be this vein, and this vein will run down here. So kind of whenever this brachial vein and this basilar vein connect, that will be your axillary vein. All right. So next, we'll move on to your inferior vena cava, which is right here. So after the inferior vena cava, you have your hepatic vein. The hepatic vein is very hard to see on this model, so we'll move over here. The hepatic vein is located inside of your livers. So this will be your hepatic vein right here. This little vein over here. All right, the next vein after that is your suprarenal veins. So remember, this is your suprarenal artery. So this will be your suprarenal vein. Okay, next is your renal vein. Remember, this is your renal artery. This will be your renal vein. Perfect. Next is your gonadal vein. This is your gonadal vein right here, this blue one. Remember, this is your gonadal artery. That gonadal vein kind of follows that artery. Next is your common iliac vein. Remember, this is your common iliac artery, so this will be your common iliac vein. And you can kind of see it splits off into this vein and this vein right here. Those would be this will be your interior iliac vein. This will be your exterior iliac vein. So next is the femoral vein. So the femoral vein will be right here. Remember your femoral artery. The vein is just this blue one that's right next to it. So femoral vein, femoral artery. Next one on the list is the great saphenous vein. Remember, the great saphenous vein is this vein that goes all the way down to here. That's that great saphenous vein. Next is your popliteal veins. So again, we're gonna flip this model over. Let's just film like this. This right here is your popliteal vein, that blue line right here. So next is your superior sagittal sinus. So if you remember the head model, which is over here, this blue vein right here is that superior sagittal sinus. That's how we drain all the blood out of the head. Now we're gonna move on to the arteries and veins of the heart. So here you have your left coronary artery. So that splits into these two arteries, here and here. This one right here, number 50, where it comes down here, that will be your anterior interventricular artery. The other artery it splits off into that kind of goes around here, that will be your circumflex artery. Over here, splitting right off the aorta, we can see right here, number 31. This is your right coronary artery. And then after that, we go to the back. If we look at the back of the heart here, we can see there's another, that circumflex artery that comes around. It seems to go down here. This will be your posterior intraventricular artery. Let me put this model back together. So the next artery is your marginal artery. Your marginal artery, remember that right coronary artery right here, where it splits off here? Those are your marginal arteries. So the next, we'll move on to some veins of the heart. The veins of the heart are very easy. You look at the back here, you see that giant major vein right here. This right here is your coronary sinus. Remember, it returns all the blood that is in the heart back into that right atrium. And what collects all that blood is this big vein right around here. That is your great cardiac vein. And those are the arteries and veins of the heart. So now we have this circle-villus model. So for circle-villus, this one right here is your basilar artery. You have your anterior superior arteries. This one's your left one. This one's your right one, because we're facing the same way here in the skull. And then you have your middle cerebral arteries. Are these arteries that kind of like branch out to the side right here. Your middle cerebral arteries, which is right here, in here. So after that, you have your posterior cerebral arteries. And your posterior cerebral arteries are these arteries that are right here. Kind of come out from here. Next is your anterior communicating artery. Remember, these are the arteries that connect other arteries. So your anterior communicating artery. And then your posterior communicating artery is this part that's right here. This little part. And if you need any extra help, just look at the circle-villus diagram Professor Cryer drew on the board. All right, we're gonna move on to the last portion. So you have, this is our spleen right here. So right around here will be our splenic vein in the back. Splenic vein. So next is your inferior mesenteric vein. Your inferior mesenteric vein should be this vein that's right here. It's not labeled on this model, but I am pretty sure this is the inferior mesenteric vein. Next is that superior mesenteric vein. The superior mesenteric vein is right here, number 7. Kind of leads through the pancreas right here. It comes out right here. The next is that hepatic portal vein. The hepatic portal vein is this vein right here, number 5. Where it's sort of cut off right here. It's a little better over here. Is that hepatic portal vein.